Hey everybody, Michael here, and I'm going to get to it because I've got something really cool to offer today. This is a pretty rare camera. This is a Premo View 8x10 camera. Now Premo, which was the high-end line of Rochester Optical Camera Company in Rochester, New York at the turn of the century, Premo was their high-end line. This was the highest of the high-end. This was their creme de la creme, their Cadillac, their Magnum. This was it. Now, this camera debuted in the 1902 catalog. Kodak bought Rochester Optical Camera Company in 1903, so just a year later. They continued on with the Premo line for a good decade, a little more than a decade later, and they continued on with this model until 1915. Actually, 1913, that's the last catalog listing I saw for it. This, because of the nameplate on it and the way the name changes worked after Kodak bought it and everything, this camera dates to between 1903 and 1907, because after Kodak bought the company, they kept the name Rochester Optical Company until 1907, and then they changed it to Rochester Optical Division of Eastman Kodak. This one says Rochester Optical Company, so gives you a rough date. It's well over 100 years old at this point, and as you can see, it's in beautiful condition. It's mahogany with brass touches. The brass still has most of its luster. The mahogany has almost all of its veneer on it. There's a couple little scratches around the base plate tripod mount here, a few little scratches on the bottom of the box, but overall, I have never seen one like this. Matter of fact, this is the first Premo View I've actually seen. I've seen a few of their other high-end cameras, but the Premo View is pretty darn rare. So I'm gonna get right into it here. I'm gonna give you a quick rundown. This is your tripod mount right here. Rather unique tripod mount, as you can see. It'd be kind of hard to mount to a modern tripod. It's got this little knob here in the middle. Allows, and you may see some graphite dust fall out. This allows that to rotate or lock. So you could actually lock it in place. It's going to come with an original period set of legs. Really sturdy and excellent condition. The first picture online you see is this on these legs. You simply fold those out, you pinch this together a little bit, clips right onto those pins. It's a lot of fun to display it that way. I personally wouldn't want to take it out in the field that way. It's a little unwieldy. It just looks really cool. So you're gonna get those. You can see how compact this thing was too. It's amazingly compact, and it is hardwood. So it's a really sturdy piece of equipment. That is a Graflex Crown #2 tripod. Graflex and the Crown made several tripods. Crown was their top of the line. They were built to support the heavier cameras. So that'll give you an indication. What I did instead, because I wanted to be able to shoot this out in the field on a regular more modern tripod, was I took a cheap pine round like this. I had some stains sitting around, so obviously it doesn't match, but this cheap pine is never gonna match that beautiful vintage mahogany there. So I did that, put a tripod screw in the middle there, took some little brass L brackets. There's 3 that aren't on here right now. And they literally just they go right onto these pins, just like the tripod would, and this just rotates around. So you can lock this or release that, you know, just like you would with these, and put it right on a regular tripod like I've got this 8x10 here, and it works great. So I will, this is coming with it, and I will ask you, whoever buys it, I'll ask you if you want me to put it back on, if you want me to leave it off and you can play with it later. So it's coming with it with all of its hardware. It's a great little adapter. It lets you use this on modern legs. Now, let's get right into it here. Open this up. It's got these beautiful little spring locks. Flip that down. And one of the first things you're going to notice here, yes, that is the original bellows. And yes, they are light tight. That's why the one picture online is really bright and contrasty and not particularly pretty. I had sunlight hitting all over the top of those bellows after I'd kind of patched. There's I think about 4 or 5 little tiny pinholes, one right on top there, and I patched them with black bookbinder's tape, which is completely opaque. I use it also to repair film holders, 8x large format film holders. So bellows, oops. Yeah, that's the other thing on these I've discovered just from looking around online. Quite often, because the screws are not real deep, people would lose them. So this one has every single one of its brass screws, which is pretty amazing. But it locks out. You have many, but not all of the movements you'd get on a modern 8x10 camera. You've got, on the front standard, you've got rise and fall in kind of a unique fashion. It literally just does it on the lens itself instead of the whole standard moving. You've got tilt, but only front. You do not have back tilt. It locks in a vertical position when you're out, but you can tilt forward. You've got focus, both the front standard and, open it up there, the rear standard do focus. So you've got that ability. The back standard, all back in here. You can loosen these. You get back tilt. You get front tilt. The back tilt is a little limited, but it does go back. And you've got front tilt. So there is no shift, front or back. Actually, the back, you can do a little bit of a swing. Get it in here. Loosen it up. So you can actually do a limited swing with the back. You cannot do swing, and there is no shift at all. You can't do swing with the front, and there's no shift, and no shift on front or back. So there is no side to side. So it is a little limited compared with a modern camera, but for the most part, unless you're wanting to play with some, funky stuff or you need something really specific, this is going to be more than enough. And it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous camera. It has the original leather carry strap. It was really dry when I got it. I put one coating of neat's foot oil on there just to moisturize a little bit. I would not carry it by this, obviously. You can actually find replacement straps that are identical to these modern versions, and it's real easy to take these off. It's actually screws on here, so you can take those off, put a new one on, and you've got something to carry it by. Otherwise, just pick it up and carry it. That's about it. Oh, I am throwing this in. I didn't take any pictures of it. It's pretty ugly. It came with the camera when I got it. It's a homemade plywood lens board. You can see it's a tiny little lens board for these things, but a homemade plywood lens board. The flange that was on here actually happened to fit one of my vintage lenses. That's what I used to take the picture to test for the light leaks outside. So it's coming with it. It's not pretty, but it's a good starter little lens board. It'll get you going. The only other little thing on here, the ground glass, you'll notice, this camera didn't have a ground glass when I got it, so I had to put one on there. The ground glass, you'll notice the corner cutouts, not exactly symmetrical. I make my own ground glass for all my cameras. This was the first one I ever made, and as you can see, not perfect. So the one caveat is it's super, super bright. I grind finer than your typical factory stuff. I use aluminum oxide, and I take it down a little finer, so it's a really, really bright screen. So that offsets the fact that you've got that little thing there. The other thing is, if you did decide you wanted to replace it because that corner cutout was just bugging you, the opening on this is 2 millimeters less than 8x10 and then an 8x10 pane. So I literally had to take my already made glass and grind off the edge. It took me darn near an hour to just keep shaving it off until I could get it to fit in there. So it fits in there snugly, but it does fit. Other than that, this camera is gorgeous. Please look at the pictures. I hope I've answered any question you may have about it. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to ask. I'm always happy to answer any questions about my auctions. Other than that, good luck and happy bidding.